Do you play NFL DFS on FanDuel? Then this is the show for you. We will take you through constructing a cash game and GPP lineup using FanDuel pricing, and it's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee, and I am the Fantasy Football Consultant. For these FanDuel series of shows, I am going to be your sole host. I may surprise you a couple weeks with a guest co-host, but you've got me. And before I talk about that cash game and GPP lineup, just one quick announcement. We cover NFL Survivor on this show as well, and we do, for all our subscribers, we do a free NFL Survivor contest where the winner wins $250. And I want to make sure you guys take advantage of that. It is so easy to join. Just 3 steps. The first step, go to cbssports.com and make sure that you either sign up for an account if you don't have one already, or just log into your account on cbssports.com. It's free if you don't have an account, very easy to set up. The second thing that you need to do is go to the description section at the top of this video, click on the link, and it will ask you to join our group on cbs.com. Click yes to that. And then the third thing is go on our cbssports.com site that you'll be launched to. Go toward the top where it says picks. Simply make your picks and save it, and do that. Assuming you don't care about the Thursday game, your deadline is 5 minutes before the games on Sunday for any game that you want to pick, unless you want to pick the Thursday game. All right, it's as simple as that. If you want to get all the other details, though, for how the pool works, I will put a link on the screen now, which goes to our NFL Survivor video, which walks you through all of the detailed rules and all that. But I just told you how to sign up, so be sure to do that today. All right, let's go into the FanDuel site and let's construct our cash game lineup. We always like to start with running back. That's where we know that we're going to either have to pay up to make sure we get that bell cow back, or look for values where we can save money and then spend money elsewhere. To say a 5-figure salary is reasonable, but it is. On FanDuel, now I know DraftKings has different pricing. I know McCaffrey is more valuable on DraftKings because it's a full PPR rather than a half PPR, and McCaffrey catches so many passes. And I understand that he's always a threat to get that bonus on DraftKings of 3 extra points of going either 100 yards rushing or 100 yards receiving. But this is a bargain because we have a $60,000 salary and he only costs $10,000. That's the same $10,000 price that he has on DraftKings. So we can make it work having Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. You know, the number one thing we care about with running back is touches. And I don't need to tell you guys, if you're watching this video, you know he gets touches in spades. Basically, what he gives you in targets is a top of the line wide receiver. In fact, only Michael Thomas got more receptions last year than Christian McCaffrey. Beyond that, of course, he piles up the yards rushing. He is game script proof. It doesn't matter whether the Panthers are ahead or they're behind. You can have confidence that McCaffrey will be well in the game plan. All right, so let's move on. Where do we go from here? So at $3,200 less than McCaffrey, he plays the Washington football team. I don't care if they're their previous name or their no name. They can't stop the rush. Last year, they ranked 31 against the rush. And don't forget who Miles Sanders is. He's going in the 2nd round in drafts, in season-long leagues. And he absolutely tore up Washington the last time they played. 19 carries, 122 yards with a TD, not to mention 6 receptions for 50 yards. I can't help but put him in the lineup. I feel like he's just horribly mispriced. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to line up Miles Sanders in the roster. Now, obviously, even though he is expected to play, he has a question mark tag on him. So I want you guys to watch that. I am not going to, on this show, give you updates, with my lineup, with late breaking news. I'm going to leave it to you guys to monitor the updates and change your lineup accordingly. But I want you to pay attention to this Philadelphia game. If you look at the running backs, Philadelphia only has 3 running backs on their entire roster. And if Miles Sanders is a go, then I feel comfortable playing him. If he is not, then here's the answer. Pick Boston Scott and enjoy the fact that you have $1,900 extra salary to allocate elsewhere. Here's the one tricky thing. If we get news or something on Miles Sanders that he's going to be on a pitch count, he's going to play, but he's on a pitch count, then, you have to make that decision for yourself. I still would probably feel comfortable in that situation, given his really low price. If he is going to play, I think that they're going to utilize him. And against Washington, I think he's going to do just fine. So I want to talk to you about a couple of other situations. There are 2 situations where, remember, when we pick a running back, we're always looking, can we get a free square running back? What does that mean, free square running back? That means when FanDuel set the pricing, that we had some type of injury or an issue to the starter where the backup is now woefully underpriced, as long as that backup is going to assume a somewhat similar role and workload as the original starter. So there are 2 spots, Washington and Jacksonville, that I wanted to talk about. So we were just on Washington, so let me go back to that game. But instead of looking at the Philadelphia running backs, let's focus on the the Washington running backs. Well, you'll notice Darius Geis is the highest Washington running back. Well, don't pick him because he's been cut. You say, where's Antonio? Where's AP? Adrian Peterson. Well, in Detroit is the answer. He's no longer on the Washington football team. So all of a sudden, we're looking at who are the potential guys that Washington can rely on. And it's not much. I think the leading candidate is Antonio Gibson, even though they still got Peyton Barber on this roster. Barber specializes in sucking and pretty much sucking up carries for a small amount of yards. I'm concerned about a committee here, but my biggest concern and why I can't argue putting Antonio Gibson in my lineup, even at a cheap price, is I'm really worried about the Washington offensive line. They lost Trent Williams, their 1 Pro Bowler. It wasn't good to start with. And on top of that, Philadelphia has a very good front 7 on defense. So I just have to pass. All right, the other possibility is Jacksonville. Why? Because Leonard Fournette, the long stay, is no longer staying in Jacksonville. He's in Tampa now with the Tom Brady Bucks. So that leaves a huge vacuum in Jacksonville. The guy I want it to be the guy is Chris Thompson because he's experienced and he gets heavily involved in the passing game. And I happen to believe this week, as well as most weeks, Jacksonville will be behind. And I think they're going to be in a lot of passing situations, which is going to be absolutely where Chris Thompson should excel. Here's the problem. I want Chris Thompson to at least get a good percentage. Give me a third or a half of the carries in addition to being the third down back. And I'm not confident that that'll be the case. Even with Armstead, who is going to be out this week. But I wanted to go over these situations so you monitor them. And if you see some news that you like, I would suggest go ahead and plugging these guys in because they're so darn cheap. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. And The first wide receiver that I would like to be looking at and potentially targeting, wow, it's Devante Adams. I love this guy. If you've been watching a lot of my preseason videos, I've been recommending him anywhere that I can. Why? Because he is the clear. Can you name just try. Name a really good passing option that Aaron Rodgers has besides Devante Adams. Yeah. So, look, Adams is awesome. He's the second best wide receiver in the game, only behind Michael Thomas. He's a target hog. Just look at this game log. He averaged 10.5 targets a game, and he just completely ate up Minnesota the last time that they played. Look at that. 13 catches with 16 targets on 116 yards. So I'm just going to plug him in the lineup at, a reasonable $8,000 salary. Where do we want to go from here? I want to dial up Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson at $7,200. What do I like about Allen Robinson? What is not to like? He is, again, the clear option on Chicago. And last year, 154 targets. It looks like, much to my surprise, the quarterback winner in week 1 for Chicago is not going to be Nick Foles. It's going to be Mitchell Trubisky. And we know that they have a rapport. Trubisky relies on him heavily last year. And look who he's facing. He's facing a Detroit Lions defense last year that absolutely could not stop the pass, ranked dead last. So I'm comfortable dialing up Allen Robinson. As an extra bonus, there's a question mark as far as whether David Montgomery will be ready for this game. And if they don't have David Montgomery, I think that they're going to be forced to rely even more on the pass. Also, I like the fact that Detroit obviously begins the game pretty healthy. Matthew Stafford is back. So I think that they're gonna score some points, and it will force Chicago to keep up and have to pass. All right. So I've kind of put this lineup together, and I know some of you are saying, Eric, what are you, work in Congress? Look how much money this guy has spent. How is he going to make this work with he only has an average of $5,600 salary? Don't worry. When we look at the slate, there are 2 games that I really like. They're both in a dome. They're in New Orleans and they're in Atlanta. And I would like, in a perfect situation, I would like to get exposure to both games. Now, spoiler alert, I had trouble making that happen for one of those games, but I definitely can in Atlanta, and that is DK Metcalf at a very reasonable $6,400 salary. If we just look at this game slate and look at the price, he's $400 cheaper than Tyler Lockett. And I see those guys almost as a 1-1, not a 1-2 punch, 1A, 1B. They don't have a big number 3 wide receiver. I like what their offensive coordinator says. DK Metcalf is an unbelievable worker. Okay. I love coach speak. Whatever. The Falcons defense last year against the pass, wasn't great. And I really think, like I said, the over-under this game is 49. I think the Falcons can put up points, and I think the Seahawks will as well. All right, so that wraps up the wide receivers. At this time, I kind of get a lay of the land for where we stand at 5,400. This is when I like to revisit quarterbacks. And I already can kind of see our motto here in the Fantasy Football Consultants. We say it in our NFL DFS Masterclass, which is free on YouTube. We say that paying up for a quarterback is not a is a luxury, not a necessity. And I don't think I have that luxury. Why? Well, McCaffrey, Adams, Robinson. I mean, we spend a lot of money. So as much as I love the key guys on here, Lamar Jackson, 9,400, Russell Wilson, 84. We can't afford those guys. And that's okay because I feel like we have a very good lower cost option. I am shocked, ladies and gentlemen, that at QB 22, is that actually right? Yeah. You look how far I am having to scroll down before we get to this guy. Is Joe Burrow.
You're way off. I say you're way off this time, son.
I'm offended. So I get it. So it's not the best matchup. But I think Joe Burrow is going to be fine anyway. It's really hard to imagine, given that he was the number one overall, so he was going to be picked by a team that was bad last year. I can't imagine a better situation with Joe Burrow going to. He goes to a Cincinnati Bengal team that last year was hit with a ton of injuries. They were hit with injuries on their offensive line. They were hit with injuries on their their top wide receiver, A.J. Green, and another major weapon and wide receiver, John Ross. Well, both of those guys are healthy now, along with Tyler Boyd as well. He's been really connecting in training camp with Auden Tate, who's such a big option around the goal line. And, the reports are that, he's looked really, really good in practice.
I mean, listen, I'm talking about practice. Not a game. We're talking about practice.
So much hate for my Joe Burrow pick by my soundboard. I don't care. You know what, soundboard? This is what I think about what you think. All right, we're going with Joe Burrow. My prediction is that this may be the cheapest price we see on Joe Burrow all season. If he comes out and does as well as I think he will, he'll be consistently priced on FanDuel way higher than QB 22, which is, just absurd.
I tell you, I don't get no respect at all.
All right, speaking of getting no respect, let's go to Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was barely utilized in Baltimore. He was behind Mark Andrews. But here's something that's interesting to note. When they did use him last year, he was pretty effective. He caught 77% of the passes that were thrown his way last year. So now he leaves Baltimore and goes to the Atlanta Falcons. And keep in mind, the incumbent, Austin Hooper, is now with the Cleveland Browns. So he's gone. He inherits a spot with Austin Hooper, which was a really key component in that Atlanta Falcons offense. He being Hooper, in this Atlanta Falcons offense, almost 6 catches a game for 60 yards. I don't see any reason why Hayden can't step in and give us similar stats as Hooper. Not maybe as much, but similar. And look at this game. His debut with the Falcons is against the Seattle Seahawks, which has generally a bad defense last year in general, but they were particularly bad against tight ends. In fact, they were the worst defense against tight ends, except for the Arizona Cardinals, who were legendarily bad defending tight ends last year. So I really like the spot for Hayden Hurst, and I really like it on FanDuel, given his $5,200 price. All right, let's switch gears here and move to our flex spot. So we've got $9,800 left, which we need to allocate to a flex position and to a defense. I really laughed at this quote from Terry McLaren's quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, who, by the way, beat out Alex Smith, who's coming back from that horrific leg injury, and Kyle Allen as the opening day starter for the Washington football team. And so they've been working out over the offseason. And here's what Haskins said. It's the best I've ever seen Terry, and I've known Terry since I was a freshman in college.
Okay, see now, what I just heard, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, Haskins, Terry McLaurin has always looked good. The person who has not looked good is you. He inherits a great situation playing a Philadelphia team that has had some injuries in their secondary on defense, and they weren't good to begin with. Look, last year they were 29th among against wide receivers. And guess what wide receiver really exposed them last year? It's Terry McLaurin. 5 catches for 130 yards and a TD in the first game they played, 5 catches and 125 yards and a TD the second time they played. So I'm going with Terry McLaurin. I'm not left with a lot of money for a defense, $3,300. You know what? I know Arizona is the defense that is the most expensive that I could pay, but I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. Why, you might ask? And that would be a good question. Why the Las Vegas Raiders?
So crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
I don't think it's crazy. DraftKings doesn't think it's crazy. They were actually the 11th best defense on the main slate on DraftKings. And why? Mostly because of who they are playing. They're playing a Carolina Panther team. I think Carolina is one of the worst teams in football this year. So I actually think Las Vegas is going to win this game. So I get a defense that I think that will be ahead. And you know what? I'm going to go with it. So, all right, everybody, I'm taking a look at the cash game lineup. I feel good about it. My one regret is I don't have any players from that New Orleans Tampa Bay game. It's the highest point total on the slate, and I would have loved to get exposure on it. I just couldn't make it work. If you can, for example, there's someone in that game you really like, feel free to slide him in and take out your least favorite in my lineup. You can make the salary work, and kudos to you. And always, because I'm not going to do it on this particular, on FanDuel, make sure you're monitoring late-breaking news and make changes to this lineup. Don't just put this lineup in and go, whatever, I'm sure it'll go great. Look for late-breaking news to see if there's any improvements you can make. And that's going to be really important this year because I think there's going to be a lot of late-breaking news in this environment. All right, so if you made it far, we're going to go over the GPP in just a second, but if you made it this far in this video, please help me out on FanDuel, and the way you can do that is to make sure that you hit the like button. I'm not going to always say that because sometimes I think it's annoying, but if you can make it a habit to always click the like button every time you see this FanDuel video, in fact, any video on our channel, we really appreciate it. It would help us in the YouTube search. And if you haven't yet, smash the red subscriber button. And then if you hit the bell icon, you can be notified of our future videos. And most importantly, I want you guys to use the comment section. I feel more strongly about this than any other videos that I do. When I'm doing my FanDuel videos, I'm talking to you guys. It's just you and my FFC community. There's no co-host. So I want to work with you guys to try to figure out the best cash and GPP lineup. So I want you to write into the comment section, hey, if you think you can improve the cash lineup or the GPP lineup, just tell us you would slide this player out or these couple of players and put these couple of players. Or if you just think that there's a really good bargain out there, and let us know who that is, and assuming that you would definitely fit him in your lineup. So I think that's great. If we get our community discussing that, you can watch my videos on FanDuel and not only get that value, but get the value by reading the comment section. All right, you can see now on your screen my GPP lineup. All right, so when we're playing GPP, everybody, you always, always, always have to have a stack. And that stack is either going to be with a quarterback and either a wide receiver, a pass-catching tight end, or a pass-catching running back. And I had the regret on my cash game that I didn't attack the highest scoring game on the slate. I'm not making this mistake on the GPP. We are attacking that game. So we got Tom Brady throwing to Chris Godwin. And I really think that's the connection that should work out this year. And I especially like that connection in this game. New Orleans still has Marshawn Lattimore. They like to put Marshawn Lattimore on Mike Evans, and he has had success against Mike Evans in the past. And that leaves Chris Godwin room to roam, and the routes that Chris Godwin runs is similar to a Julian Edelman. So I tend to think that that will be the key target from Tom Brady. And I think Tom Brady is going to have to throw the ball because I think that New Orleans is going to put up the points. So I like that stack. And when you're doing a stack in a high-scoring game, you always want to get another guy on the opposite team that you have a lot of confidence in. And how can you not have confidence in Michael Thomas? At only $8,800, that's not a bad price on FanDuel. So I don't need to tell you, he gets more targets, more receptions than any other wide receiver in football and any other player in football. He's even more than Christian McCaffrey. So he can definitely blow up for us. All right, where do we go from here? Let's talk a little bit about the other wide receiver. And I'm going to go with Desean Jackson.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
All right. We all know Desean Jackson is getting up there a little bit in age, folks. But, you know, you might have concerns of picking Desean Jackson in your season-long league because you don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy. But so what? We don't care about that in daily fantasy football. The point is he's at full health now. So, and by the way, his compatriot wide receiver, Alshon Jeffries, is hurt. So I don't see a situation where Philadelphia doesn't have to rely on him at a decent amount. And I love his option on GPP because here's the deal. When Desean Jackson blows up, when he does well, he does really well. Why? Because what you want in GPP play is you want to have high air yards. And Desean Jackson always has high air yards. He only was able to stay healthy for one game, but guess what? That one game was against the same Washington football team, and he just went for 8 catches, 154 yards, and 2 TDs. That's all. And you get him at a ridiculously low $5,700 price. I was tempted to use Desean Jackson in the cash game, but it didn't make sense based on the salary structure. In fact, just one tip going back to the cash game. If you want, you can replace Terry McLaurin with Desean Jackson, and then you have enough money to go from Devante Adams to Michael Thomas. I just wasn't comfortable doing that in cash games. So, but maybe you are. All right, so let's talk about the running backs. I already talked about why I like Miles Sanders, although we will watch his health. And I'm a little surprised Joe Mixon now has a question mark, so he's going to watch his health. I'm just a big believer in this Cincinnati Bengal offense. Last year, poor Joe Mixon, he looks in front of him, and he as they line up to snap the ball, and he's got a below-average quarterback. He looks to the left, and he doesn't see A.J. Green. And he looks to the right, he doesn't see John Ross. And honestly, defense is just keyed in on him. They're not going to be able to do it now. I mean, I believe, like I told you before, I think Joe Burrow say what you want about him. He has to be a upgrade over the quarterback play that they had last year. Feeling. And then finally, Austin Eckler, same game, but the only benefit is the Cincinnati defense is weaker. Melvin Gordon is gone. This is Austin Eckler's team. Although, he'll never give you Christian McCaffrey like load, but he is going to have a heavier load than when Melvin Gordon was on this team. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler in the flex, and once again with the Las Vegas Raiders. And that is my GPP lineup. Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. You're too kind. Wait till this GPP lineup scores like 90. So we'll put on the screen a link to our DraftKings show for week 1 that we did, and a link to our playlist for our NFL DFS Masterclass. So, folks, I don't know about you. I am so excited for NFL football. Have a great and safe week, and we will see you next time.